What you are looking at here is Dr. Rollier's world-famous, life-changing sun cure clinics in Leysen, Switzerland. Hello, I am Džon Everblast. The first video of this Eden series, The Sun Cure, provided a historical, pictorial, medical record of what the pioneer physicians around the world had to do to successfully cure an incurable, multi-generational global epidemic of TB. Patients were shown pictorially sunbathing, working and playing with bare limbs and lots of exposed skin, summer and winter. So the primary health principle? A balanced blood circulation is required. To get that, she said we must induce the blood to the extremities so everything's the same temperature. So how do we do that? In these few quotes, clothing was the way to accomplish that. Everything from the neck on down. But is that the only thing that can induce blood to the extremities? Here's a balancing quote from that same author. Boys accustomed to exercise out of doors become inured or hardened to cold and exposure and are actually less liable to colds when thinly clad than the girls, because the open air seems to be the boys' natural element. Who knew that cold limbs could be the cause of so many health problems, all from an imbalanced blood circulation? Cough, headache, nosebleed, indigestion, palpitations, weakened heart, lung inflammation and congestion, brain inflammation and congestion. Health is sacrificed, lives are sacrificed. The Battle Creek Sanitarium was the greatest hygienic healthcare institution that has ever been. It was the largest and most well-equipped. It had the greatest physician in our world. It was raised up at God's command. It had over 1,000 different baths and therapies. Yet, sunlight was considered to be one of their most effective treatments. And that's saying something. These boys are acclimated, and the conditions are right. Perhaps the counsel about covering the limbs for better health was not as much focused on the acclimated as it was on the unacclimated. The unacclimated are those that live and work indoors, those who are pale, fragile, delicate, and unable to tolerate cold or changes in temperature. Yes, the counsel applies to both groups, yes. Yet those who are acclimating to the cold have a great advantage. They have a much greater tolerance for the cold and weather changes. No matter how acclimated or tanned the patients were at the Battle Creek Sanitarium, they could not do what these boys are doing because, unlike Leysen, Battle Creek has an abundance of wind and very little sunlight in the wintertime, and they are not in a high elevation. In order to do what these boys can do, we must be acclimated and the conditions must be right. All right, back to the Alps. This is an illustration of the effect of alpine sun and open-air treatment on the general health. This is a quote from Dr. Rollier. The air and sunbath is the most powerful of all tonics and health restorers. It rebuilds the organism and increases its vitality. Children strengthened during the summer months by air and sunbaths, air baths and sunbaths, are hardier and can much better withstand all the illnesses that may affect them during the winter. The same applies to adults. In fact, the general health of Dr. Rollier's patients proved quite remarkable. Visitors often commented on the lack of coughs and colds among children who were so exposed. This is Dr. Rollier speaking. He says, gardening and farming are suitable for convalescent lung and bone cases more than any other kinds of work. They all get so hardened by open air and sunlight, their muscles get so wonderfully developed, and such a high degree of resistance is achieved on their part that they are envied by many a low country laborer. Resistance refers to both disease and weather changes. Resistance to both. The second photo there that you see demonstrates health care done right. And that's that same boy, on A, same boy 2.5 years later after arrival. The thing that all these patients had in common was that they were tanned. The next few slides will finally begin to explain why a tan is good. Now we get into the meat of it here. The pioneer practitioners of the sun cure treated tuberculosis patients successfully with sunlight and fresh air. And they discovered something quite unexpected having to do with the purpose of a tan. Tanning accelerated healing. It has been a common observation that the cure of a tuberculosis patient parallels roughly the degree of skin pigmentation, tanning. The greater the tanning, the more rapid the cure. This was a common observation among the pioneer practitioners of heliotherapy. They had discovered a spectacular advancement in healthcare, a paradigm shift. And they also discovered why. The why of the matter greatly simplifies the care of the sick. It created a wonderful paradigm shift that moved the pioneers much closer to God's original Eden healthcare system. And it pushes pharmaceuticals aside. Here's the beginning of the why tanning accelerates healing. This is by Dr. John Harvey Kellogg. The improved circulation, that's the key. The improved circulation of the skin, which accompanies the pigmentation, is always attended by a relief from a multitude of disagreeable symptoms. And if these general light applications are supplemented by other indicated physiological measures and by proper regulation of the diet and general habits of life, multitudes of cases, incurable by other means, may be in the course of a few months restored to excellent health. We got to pay attention to that. These pioneer physicians have shown us the true purpose of a tan, and it is not to protect us from a disease-causing sun. It's to accelerate healing. Phototherapy is a useful means of producing local and general hyperemia of the skin for relief of the visceral congestion, which is rarely absent in chronic disease. The pallor of the skin, which is nearly always present in chronic invalids, signifies not only anemia of the skin, but necessarily implies also congestion of the viscera, our internal vital organs. The general muscular weakness which accompanies chronic disease prevents exercise, so that the muscles, as well as the skin, are anemic. This is not looking good. The importance of this fact will be recognized when it is considered that the muscles, when active, are capable of holding 1/2 of all the blood in the body. The idle muscle contains not more than 1/4 or 1/6 as much blood as the active muscle. A pale skin and inactive muscles necessarily imply congested viscera. This chronic congestion of vital organs necessarily results in derangement of functions and often in change of structure of these vital internal organs. This is very serious. All this is automatic when we sunbathe and tan. It induces the blood to the extremities, which means clothing is not the only thing that can induce blood to the extremities. A tan can. But it gets even better if we ask the question, how long does that tan-induced blood stay in the extremities? Well, Dr. Kellogg gave us an answer. He says, Hasselbalch noted that the increased vascularity of the skin, like the face, induced by light, lasts for 6 to 9 months. Now that is information we can use. And it sounds like divine forethought to me, doesn't it? A healing tan will carry us through the long winters, both with stored vitamin D and decongested internal organs, etc. If we want to be acclimated to the cold and temperature changes, we need to get tanned. If we want to induce the blood to the extremities, we need to get a thorough tan and regular exercise. If we want to accelerate healing and relieve a multitude of disagreeable symptoms, we need to get tanned. Now, is there a way to accelerate tanning itself? The pioneers had an answer to that as well. They found that a great deal of the tanning is due to the influence of the open air and winds. For example, a passenger on a steamship will tan more quickly and more deeply by standing upon the forecastle of the ship an hour or two daily than by sitting amidship in a deck chair. In other words, sunbathing in the wind will develop a tan faster. Tanning is a major, fundamental treatment modality. It can prevent and reverse disease and relieve a multitude of disagreeable symptoms. This is a fundamental paradigm shift in natural health care. Nature does the heavy lifting in caring for the sick, not the caregiver. God's outdoor healthcare system is automatic. Nothing else comes close. From Dr. Kellogg, the tanned skin is able to defend itself against cold, and to protect the body against disease much more efficiently than the pale, anemic skin which has not been kissed by the sun. What you're looking at here, that's Layson at the Sun Cure Clinics. The lesson to be learned here is the incredible healing power that is ours when we live an outdoor lifestyle and get ourselves a deep tan. This is from Leonard Hill. He says the pigmented skin of one habituated to sun exposure is much more resistant to infection. Febrile rashes such as chickenpox affect least the well-pigmented areas. Regarding the newcomers at an English alpine sanatorium, it is noticeable how quickly they respond to the climatic conditions and in 2 or 3 weeks look and feel in better health. 2 or 3 weeks. The writer, discussing the climate with 4 men, all cases of arrested disease, able to engage in vigorous outdoor sports and looking strong and healthy, found that they agreed that they had never known what it was to be really well and feel the full joy of living till they were impelled by tuberculosis to practice the outdoor life. We do what we need to do to maintain a balanced blood circulation and to get as much healing sunlight as possible without causing others to stumble. If you remember nothing else from this presentation, please remember this. Tanning accelerates healing. Tanning is always attended by relief from a multitude of disagreeable symptoms. It decongests the organs and head and balances the circulation. Tanning is a major part of God's magnificent outdoor automatic healthcare system.